Waseda Hoshien, located near Waseda University, has borne witness to the Meiji, Taisho, Showa, and Heisei eras. For a century, it has served as a gathering place for students and working people, functioning mainly as a Christian student center. And it continues to move into the future. We are now entering a new era. The history of Waseda Hoshien goes back a century to the chance encounter between an American missionary and a Japanese student of Waseda University. The name of the American missionary was Harry Baxter Benninghoff. After working on a mission in Burma, known as Myanmar today, he completed his studies at the University of Chicago, and upon his graduation in 1907, was dispatched to Japan by the Northern Baptists of America. Speaking of his decision to perform missionary work in the Far East, Benninghoff recounted the following to Masakichi Okada, a student at UI Gakusha Friendship Dormitory. When I was a student, I participated in a summer school program held near a lake. One elderly missionary preached to us. In the Far East, there is only one missionary for every several million people. I was moved by his words and decided at that moment to go on mission to the Far East. Instantly, I made up my mind to do so without consulting with my family and to step into the forest. And then I prayed to God to take me to the Orient as a missionary. After being appointed as a professor at the Tokyo Gakuin Baptist Seminary in Ichigaya, Benninghoff happened upon a Japanese student one day on the street. The student was from Waseda University, and his name was Gohachiro Miura. He recognized Benninghoff as an American and asked him for English lessons. Benninghoff agreed to teach him and invited a group of Waseda students to his home in the foreign settlement in Tsukiji, in the central area of Tokyo, to give them lessons in English and the Bible. This gathering became known as the 3L group. The 3 L's stood for loyalty, love, and liberty. These 3 words became the keys representing the spirit of Waseda Hoshien. Eventually, through his students, Benninghoff became acquainted with Waseda University professor Iso Abe. Abe had worked as a church minister in Okayama Prefecture following his graduation from Doshisha University, and after studying abroad, taught at both Doshisha and Waseda. Later, he went into politics, leading the Social Democratic Party. He was a major Christian socialist and is well known for his contributions to the development of university baseball. Abe later became the first chairman of Hoshien. Through his friendship with Abe, Benninghoff secured a position as a lecturer at Waseda University and met the founder of the university, Shigenobu Okuma. Okuma made a request of him. He said, "I'd like you to create an environment where Waseda University students can live in the same way as American students." Benninghoff decided that the best way to meet Okuma's request would be to create a dormitory for students. With Abe's help, he started a dormitory based on the abolished YMCA dormitory in Tsurumaki-cho, near Waseda University. This became what Benninghoff named UI Gakusha, meaning Friendship Dormitory. The opening ceremony for the dormitory was held on November 3, 1908, 1 century ago, and Benninghoff's project had begun. This project eventually became known as Waseda Hoshien. 3 years later, in 1911, Benninghoff moved the dormitory to Ushigome Bentencho, another place near the university, to be able to accommodate more students, and build a new student center with meeting rooms, a missionary house, and tennis courts. Bentencho was the first site of Hoshien Shinko Kyokai, which eventually became Waseda Church. When choosing the name, Benninghoff used the Chinese characters for association rather than church, and friendship rather than worship, hinting at his convictions about worship. In 1917, Benninghoff was appointed as the first chairman of Tokyo Women's Christian University. Just at that time, Yodo Mukotani entered Friendship Dormitory. He served at Waseda Hoshien until 1968, when he passed away and became the successor to Benninghoff's ideals. With the idea to build a bigger student center, in 1920, Benninghoff purchased a lot of 2,400 tsubo, 8,000 square meters, at the present site of Hoshien, and built a series of buildings including Scott Hall, UI Dormitory, and a residence for missionaries. The new student center was quite modern, with tennis and volleyball courts and other sports facilities. Scott Hall, which continues to stand today as a symbol of Waseda Hoshien, was built at that time with donations from Mrs. Harriet Scott, the widow of an American millionaire. Its inauguration ceremony was held in January 1922. In those days, at Hoshien, a variety of activities were carried out either for students or by the students themselves. In addition to the 3L Club and UI Dormitory and Sunday School, these activities included international programs such as International Club, Japan-American Club, and English Language Seminar, as well as the Infant Research Club, Music Club, and Sports Club. Benninghoff did not limit his activities to missionary work, but tried to meet the needs of students by making Hoshien a place where students could gather and learn together. The students who gathered at Hoshien at that time included Masaru Ibuka, the founder of Sony, Kenichi Abe, a president of Waseda University, Joji Tsubota, a famed figure in children's literature, and Chiune Sugihara, who became famous for saving many Jews from the Holocaust while serving as a consul in Lithuania. As the 1930s began, the world situation became dark. In 1933, Japan was expelled from the League of Nations, and the militarist forces gradually strengthened. In the midst of this, Tadaoki Yamamoto, the second chairman of Waseda Hoshien, worked in partnership with Waseda University to establish the Waseda International Institute. In the decade between its establishment in 1935 and its closing in 1945, the institute provided training in Japanese language and culture to more than 1,000 students from 22 countries, including not only Japanese living abroad, but also young people, mainly from Japanese-occupied areas. Waseda International Institute was truly a forerunner of internationalization among Japanese universities. But times changed quickly, and the Great War broke out in Europe. Relations between the United States and Japan deteriorated, and in the midst of rising pressure against Christians in Japan. Benninghoff was forced to leave Japan in March 1941 to return to the U.S. In December of that year, war broke out between Japan and the U.S. With this, Waseda Hoshien entered a period of intense difficulty. The military was given priority everywhere, and Waseda Hoshien, which was adjacent to Toyomagahara Army Base, was made a target of requisition by the base. It was the second chairman, Tadaoki Yamamoto, who rescued Waseda Hoshien from the military requisition. He used his ingenuity to transfer the land and buildings of Waseda Hoshien to Waseda University, and to establish a new petroleum engineering department there, nominally to meet the Army's requirements. In fact, UI Dormitory and Waseda Hoshien were relocated to the nearby town of Suwacho to wait out the difficult war period. In August 1945, the war came to a close. Waseda Hoshien somehow managed to survive until the end of the war and began a long process of recovery. In 1947, it began negotiations with Waseda University for the return of its land and buildings. Initially, there was opposition within the university, but finally, in 1949, the land was returned in appreciation for the contributions Hoshien had made to the university. In 1948, the American Baptists dispatched William F. Friedel, its first missionary to post-war Japan. Services of Waseda Church began again at Scott Hall. In 1949, UI Dormitory returned to its previous location. On April 24, 1949, Benninghoff, who had long hoped to return once more to Japan, passed away in Franklin, Indiana, at the age of 75, leaving behind many things to do. In the post-war years, a number of missionaries were dispatched. They included W. M. Friedel, Anton C. Robertson, Donald Wheeler, and Carl Holmgren. Other missionaries dispatched to the Japan Baptist Union, including Bill Hinchiman and Peter Beckwith, did important work for Waseda Hoshien. Under the guidance of these missionaries, the students became increasingly active. The 3L Club resumed its activities, and new programs such as a work camp were initiated. In 1951, the Waseda Hoshien Christian Student Association was established, and student activities began to take place under the initiative of the students themselves. This was certainly a continuation of the ideas of Benninghoff, who respected the autonomy and initiative of students, that having students set goals themselves would lead to the best results. In addition to the 3L Club, Bible study group, English language classes, and chorus group, students organized a variety of clubs, including discussion groups on international issues and the study group on human problems. A wide variety of programs were organized at the initiative of students, including work camps and summer camps, spring and fall retreats, and lectures and international student seminars. The Student Association continued its activities. At the end of the 1950s, it had approximately 300 members. But as a result of the changing situation surrounding Waseda Hoshien, it lost its energy in the mid-1970s and finally became defunct. At the end of the 1960s, Waseda Hoshien underwent a major change. Activity funding from the United States began to switch to other Asian countries and was ended. Waseda Hoshien was forced to finance itself independently. Funds were raised by demolishing the brick Ui Gaksha and missionary building and selling the land, and by relaunching Waseda Hoshien as a foundation. This was in 1972. In that year, UI Dormitory was relocated into the new building, and a new project, the Seminar House, was established in the building. At the time of the establishment of the Seminar House, a variety of programs were newly launched, mainly in the area of international relations. Though Waseda Hoshien had originally been established as a place for introducing Waseda University students to Western culture, its activities gradually began to focus on Asia, based on the idea of examining the position of Japan within Asia. The Asian language classes, which were launched in 1973 with the aim of promoting international exchanges at the level of students and citizens, were a pioneering experiment in the promotion of international exchanges by the private sectors. In addition, Barefoot Southeast Asia Experience Seminar and other pioneering seminars, which involve visits to local areas, seminars dealing with Asian problems, and courses on Asia, were planned and carried out. In 1985, in response to a request from Waseda University, the Kokusai Gakusha International Student House was established as a dormitory for overseas students. 3 years later, in 1988, a second dormitory building for foreign students was completed. Running this facility became a major pillar of Waseda Hoshien's activities. And with this, Waseda Hoshien took a first step toward becoming a foreign student center for students not only from Japan, but from around the world. In the period from the end of the 1960s to the 1990s, Waseda Hoshien's transformation was supported by its sixth chairman, former Waseda University President Sukenaga Murai. Murai had a long relationship with Waseda Hoshien, going back to the time when it was used as the Department of Petroleum Science by Waseda University. He worked hard to help Waseda Hoshien to overcome the crisis. This is Waseda Hoshien today. Scott Hall has been designated by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government as an important historical cultural property. Currently, there are 14 students living in UI dormitory. They still follow tradition in carrying out Bible readings and prayers in the morning. This is a student club. Asunado Kai, a volunteer organization supporting children with mental disabilities, is still active 46 years after its establishment. Many of its members have launched careers in the field of social welfare. The class named Global Understanding, based on the idea of international understanding, as well as the Asian Youth Forum, a fieldwork program, were held with many students from Waseda University and other universities. Feel Japan, a student club aiming to give foreign students a taste of Japanese culture, holds events throughout the year. The Japanese Language Teaching Volunteer Group, which derived from the class of Methods for Teaching Japanese Language to Foreigners, provides lessons for foreigners living in Japan. It has been operating for nearly a decade and is occasionally featured in the mass media. English language classes have a long history going back to the 1910s. The Asian language classes, which were started 35 years ago, continue to develop and today provide instruction to about 300 students a year in 9 different languages. Projects for international exchange are also held. These are photos from the Oceania Future Forum, held in 2006, and the South Asia Future Forum, held in 2007, as Waseda Hoshien's centennial events. They were both held in partnership with the Japan Foundation, promising young people from the island nations of Oceania, as well as from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bhutan, were invited to Japan to live together, exchange opinions, and form a network among themselves and with Japan. Students from overseas. With the completion of the 12-story, 98-room third dormitory building named Kokusai Ui Gakusha International Friendship House in 2004, Waseda Hoshien now has approximately 150 rooms for foreign students. Waseda University students from some 30 foreign countries are now living at Hoshien. The seminar house is still a major pillar of Waseda Hoshien's activities. A wide range of people use the facility's meeting rooms and halls. Hoshien provides a place for students and community residents to meet and learn, and at the same time, it is an important source of revenue for Waseda Hoshien. There are 2 churches on the campus of Waseda Hoshien, Waseda Church and Tokyo Peace Church. Waseda Church became an independent church in 1939, based on the Hoshien Shinko Gyokai founded by Benninghoff. Tokyo Peace Church was founded in 1989 as the Baptist church in the area. A number of Christian organizations are active in the Japan Christian Center building and Avako building, which are located adjacent to Waseda Hoshien. It is a large ecumenical center which functions as the center of Protestant churches in Japan. A number of NGOs and MPOs are active in the area near Waseda Hoshien. They include the Japan Overseas Christian Medical Cooperative Service, a pioneering international NGO, as well as leading Japanese organizations such as the Chaplanier Citizens Committee in Japan for Overseas Support, which has worked from Waseda Hoshien since its establishment in 1972, and the Japan NGO Center for International Cooperation, JANIC. In the century since its foundation in 1908, the shape of Waseda Hoshien has changed, and the people gathering under its roof have changed along with the passage of generations. Nevertheless, Hoshien's activities have been carried on by people inheriting the spirit of Benninghoff and responding to changes in society in a flexible way. From the very beginning, the activities of Waseda Hoshien were based on the concepts of friendship and service. The saying, "Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friends," from John 15, verse 13, represents the spirit of Friendship Dormitory. And the phrase, "Whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be slave of all," in Mark 10 represents the spirit of Waseda Hoshien. These 2 lines from the Bible were chosen by Benninghoff. 3L, loyalty, love, liberty, friendship, and service. These words have served as the spiritual foundations of Waseda Hoshien over the years. The mission of Hoshien, enshrined in its charter, is to look up to Jesus Christ as a teacher of principles, and based on his spirit of service, offer a place for the formation of well-rounded humans. Through that history, Hoshien has functioned as a Christian student center with an international perspective. Through these activities, it has served students, providing a place to nurture people who realize that those who are served will eventually become those who serve. Now that we have entered the 21st century, Waseda Hoshien continues to preserve its original spirit while aiming to become a representative international student center of the Asian region. A great number of people, including students, some from around the world, have gathered here and love, as brothers, going beyond barriers of nationality, ethnicity, religion, customs, history, and values. Through these activities, Hoshien has nurtured a spirit of friendship and service, based on the desire to contribute as global citizens to the creation of a peaceful world. Hoshien will continue to advance into the future based on the following goals: inherit the spirit of Christianity, maintain cooperative relations with people and organizations of Waseda University, while working in solidarity and partnership with them, develop an international student center. In doing so, nurture a new generation of leaders with solid values and theoretical ideas who can contribute to a world where diverse cultures can coexist, and aim to build a broad network between people around the world. Waseda Hoshien, which was born from many moving encounters between people, in a way that can be said to be guided by God, will continue to hold firm to the spirit of its founder, Harry Baxter Benninghoff, and while continuing to cherish encounters between people, will further follow a path into the future